Hello fellow book nerds, this is Gabby and today we're talking about all the books I read in February. Hello everyone, welcome to the new video. Today's a wrap up, nice and simple. We've got 10 books. So, we gotta get busy. February was all about mood reading until it wasn't. What I mean by that, first part of the month, I didn't have too many plans. I just knew I needed to read like one book and, I was like, why not get through some things that I already own physically or an ebook, like things I already paid for, And then towards the end, I got really, really busy and there was no time for mood reading anymore. But we have some interesting books because when I mood read, I panic. My head is empty and things happen. Okay, so let's just kick it off. The first book I read was The Deep by River Solomon. So this book is it's like a novella about mermaids, but in this world, mermaids are descendants of pregnant slaves thrown overboard, and the custom in this world is for every member of society not to have memory of what the mermaids are and all that kind of thing, but rather give it to one single person who remembers everything, and that person's called, I don't know, but it's a person and they're called something like the keeper, and Yetu, who is the current memory keeper, feels very overwhelmed because it's not just that she remembers, she relives the trauma of her people and can basically, recall those events really accurately and feels like she's dying and all that kind of stuff. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I thought it was beautifully written. I especially really enjoyed the interludes in between that were kind of from this different perspective of different memory keepers rather than Yetu. They were like interludes, so like a different writing style. But I really enjoyed those, and I'm thinking I might like these very abstract stories that you're kind of like, what the hell is even happening? Because that's something I really, really enjoyed. I really, really, really like how the mermaids were portrayed because it was just such a unique and interesting way. And I think overall the commentary is on point. And I noticed some part of like, there's like a song and something with it. It's like a whole project, so if you guys want to check that out, do. But this was really, really well written and I really enjoyed it. Next up, I read another mermaid book. So I read Bay of Sighs by Nora. So this one is a fantasy romance. So this is book 2 in a series, which I didn't realize, but it's a little bit, I don't want to call it a companion series because there is an overarching plot, but each book is about a different couple, and I decided, like, I was like 20% into the book and I just decided I don't care. I don't care. Let's just read this. So basically we follow 6 people. Each of them are kind of either magical, there's something going on with them. We have like a werewolf, we have an immortal, we have a guy who can travel through time and space, a magician, a mermaid, and one more person, and a seer, and they have to protect these stars that they have to find and protect these stars that came from the sky many years ago from this like evil goddess thing. It was alright, really, as far as it comes for fantasy romance, because obviously like mainly this is a romance. I thought it was very well done and I really, really enjoyed it. The romance was really cute. We have the mermaid and the guy who travels for time get together, but she's very like a little like, not in a weird way, but a little childlike, she's never been on land, and he's very like respectful and all of that, but she's also like kind of grown-ass woman, so she knows what she wants, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was cute dynamics, really well executed, and it was overall pretty adorable, and I give it 4 stars. Next up, I read Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. So I got this book from Hannon, so thank you so much, Hannon. This is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and in this one we follow Pip, who in last book uncovered this a case that happened in her hometown, and in this book is a new case. So one of her friend's brothers goes missing, and the guy asks her to use her podcast, which she kind of based on the trial and the crime from the previous book. He asks her to kind of use the podcast to get the word out to more people to help find her friend's brother, and wow, I was so blown away. This book is absolutely breathtaking and amazing, and I think the most amazing thing about it is that it kind of tackles the trauma of what happened to Pip in book 1. I mean, there's so much more trauma that happened in this book, so I can only imagine what book 3 does. But this just didn't shy away from what this would do to like a relative. Like, she's 18 years old, she's a child, you know, what that would do to her and how that impacted her. And I just always liked Pip because she's a very realistic protagonist, and she just feels like a real person with real thoughts and feelings and real reactions, because I feel like I always hark on truly devious. I don't mean to do that, but that book, the main protagonist just seemed like such a YA thriller protagonist. All brain, no feeling, no social decorum, nothing. Whereas Pip feels like a real person. So I really would recommend this book. I give it 5 stars. Book 1 was 5 stars as well. Maybe I was more interested in the mystery in book 1, but this one was just such a beautiful exploration of the character and her relationships, and I just think it's gonna go in all kinds of places from now on. So I'm very excited, but this was really good and I was so impressed. Next up we have From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is a very well-known, spicy romance fantasy novel, and I know it's very popular on TikTok. In it we follow Poppy, who is a maiden, so she is considered like chosen by the gods, and she will ascend eventually. No one can touch her, no one can speak to her, and she wears a veil, and she, you know, can't really leave whatever it is that she lives and all of that. And maybe she gets in the romance with a guard, who knows, maybe. But I was blown away by how much I love this book. Oh my god, it was cute, it was sexy, it was romantic, it was interesting story building. Like, you don't really know what the paranormal creatures are in this book. I kind of was spoiled for it anyways, I knew, and it is a little bit obvious. I was a bit confused why the character was so surprised, but it's still really interesting and really well done, and I think there was so much going on for it, and it just built this very expansive world. If you like ACOTAR, if you like Sarah J. Maas writing, I think you'll enjoy this book. I personally am not that big on Sarah J. Maas, but I must say this really brought these like addictive, really into it, fast action, really compelling characters feelings for me, and I'm enjoying it more than I did some Sarah J. Maas stuff. And I was really loving the main protagonist, Poppy. I think she's awesome, and I think she's cool as she kind of backs it up, which I think can be a problem sometimes. I gave it 5 stars, and pretty much right away I had to do something else in between, but whatever. Pretty much right away, I started A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, which is book 2 in the series, and that was just as good. I was so surprised because nothing really happens in that book. Like, I'm not saying it's boring, but like really not that much happens. Like, they're in the same location for the entire book, and there's just so much talking and stuff, but I still loved it. I just thought it was done so well, and I found the main character's journey compelling, and I also gave it 5 stars, and to the point where as soon as I finished, I just like flipped open, go buy book 3, start book 3. Even if I knew I could just read maybe like 5 chapters, but I needed to know because the cliffhangers, oh my god, this author does not stop with the cliffhangers. I know there's a new book coming out in March, so I'm really looking forward to finishing book 3 when I have some time and reading book 4, but that was really good. I was really surprised, but I ended up loving it as much as everyone else. Next up, I read Ophelia After All by Racquel Marie. So this book is a new release. It's a YA contemporary, and we follow Ophelia, who figures out her sexuality and her belonging in place and her family and her friends, all that kind of thing, while she's in high school. And I really thought this book was really cute. I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it. Really decent contemporary, just not something I read anyway, so I just felt a bit like, yeah, this is a good time. And what? No, but it was good. I have a whole comprehensive review dedicated just for this book. I give it 3.5 stars, so if you want to like know the details of what I enjoyed, what I didn't, I'll go there. But Cliff's Notes, it was good, but I'm probably past the demographic which this is for, and also it's not something I read a lot of, so there you go. Next up we have The Seas by Samantha Hunt. So this book, it's like really short novella. It's only 5 hours, and I think it's pretty old. 2004. Wow, it was wild. I don't even know. I don't even know. So we follow this girl who thinks she's a mermaid. Her father told her she was a mermaid before he disappeared in the sea. She is in love with this sailor that's like 13 years her junior, and he's come back from the war. He's like a drunk, and she lives in this town. It's very like a depressing small town vibes, and she believes that she's a mermaid, therefore she needs to marry a human man in order to gain a soul. It was wild. I don't know how to explain it. I can't decide if it was good or bad. There's an introduction that I listened to, and she's basically talking about how you don't know if it's a psychotic break or if this is like magical realism or something. And yeah, I can't tell. I'm in favor of a psychotic break, but okay. I gave it 2.5 stars. Next up we have Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. I love this book. I listened to an audiobook and it was done brilliantly. So this is an Ethiopian-inspired retelling of Jane Eyre. Follow Andromeda, who is a Deptra, which means that she can see the evil eye and like exorcise ghosts and evil eye. And in this world, the evil eye comes to people who have been greedy and have accumulated too much wealth. So one day she gets this assignment to go to this house of Mr. Rochester, is it? Who is the son of the guy who got the evil eye, but he since died and the evil eye got like inherited onto Magnus. And she has to exorcise the ghosts. And oh my god, I really loved the audiobook. I think it was done perfectly. Like the audiobook narrator gave it her own. The only thing with this book, it's quite short. I felt he could have been longer to really flesh out the world and flesh out the characters, because they fell for each other quickly. Like they didn't get together because there was a lot of like conflict and reasons and whatever, but they fell for each other with a speed of a torpedo, like honestly insanely quickly. So I don't know, that could have been fleshed out a little bit more, but overall I did really enjoy it and I would recommend it, and I think that it deserves the 4.5 stars I gave it. And I'm looking forward to more from this author because I was really impressed. Next up I read House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J. Maas. So this is equal to House of Earth and Blood, which is Crescent City 2. We follow Bryce, whose friend dies, and she gets sucked into this investigation. And I want to tell you, obviously this will be spoilers. I have a whole vlog where I literally vlogged every second of the experience. It's spoilers filled and I give you very comprehensive thoughts. But here I'll just say 800 pages of what? Of nothing. Literally nothing happened in this book. I was bored. I gave it 3 stars. Hannah's trying to convince me to give it 2. I think I'm going to settle on 2.5 because when yeah, you know, 2.5 is fair because when I reflect, like nothing happened. I didn't even enjoy that. No, nothing happened. Next up, I read Ring Shout by P. Djèlí Clark. So this book is another novella, lots of those. I also listened to the audiobook, which was pretty good. It's a historical fantasy, you know, like historical with a twist. So what are we, maybe like 1950s? Don't quote me on that. But basically in this world, the Ku Klux Klan members, or Ku Klux Klan, are actual demons. And the main character is like a demon hunting huntress. Demon huntress. She's pretty cool. So it's about like eradicating the world of these Ku Klux Klans. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was done very well. All the metaphors worked. Everything was really good. Yeah, overall it was a really well executed book. It was really short. Everything I've read by the author so far has been very short. So I'm really excited to discover more of his works that are full-length novels, because I feel like it's always super interesting and done very well considering how little pages there were. Like both this and the other book I read by him, Black God's Drum, both really well executed for how short they were, but I cannot fall in love with book, give it all of my soul and, you know, that insane level of loving if it's not that long, because I just don't have enough time. But it was really good and I would really recommend it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Okay, next up we have Jade City by Fonda. So in this one we follow a world where Jade is everything. It can give you kind of superpowers, and this is a mafia story where different gangs fight over the possession of Jade. Follow this mafia family called No Peak, and this is kind of the ramping up of gang war. I really love this. I read this for my read-along Queens read-along. So we already had a live show for this. So if you want like really full thoughts whatever. You can check out the live show, hear what everyone thought, but I personally really loved it. Gave it 4.5 stars in the end, because I think it was just such a unique story. It's set in this high fantasy world, but it doesn't really feel like fantasy. It feels more like historical fiction, but then the Jade feels a little bit like technology or drugs, and it just has such interesting internal logic, and also like the relationships and the motivations. Oh my god, and the foreshadowing. I thought everything just beautifully worked, and I'm so excited for Jade War because everyone keeps saying how much better it is. Even though this one's good, I'm excited to see what's new, what's better. So I'm very excited. So if you want to join for the read along, you can still have time. You can read this book easily. I read this one in 5 days, so you can totally do that too. And then you can join for Jade War, which would be awesome. Alright, well, those are all of the books that I read in February. Let me know if you read any of these. If you did, let me know what you thought about them. Let me know your favorite book you read in February. What was my favorite? Ooh, this is really hard. Jade City was really good. Within These Wicked Walls was very good. From Blood and Ash was really good. And Good Girl Bad Blood was really good. Favorite was From Blood and Ash? I don't know. I just fell for that book hard. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, I really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!